together many times. He is my book coach. He helped me get a #1 best-selling book within 2 weeks of publishing it. Let's welcome elevated listener Red O'Laughlin. Hi, Red.
Hey, Dr. Jacalyn. Just another wonderful day in paradise, eh?
Yes, it definitely is. And I'm so proud of you and all of the work that you've done and adding elevated listener to your accomplishments. But before we begin with the listening, Red, I would really like to spotlight you and then just have you share with the world the work that you're doing, because you are out there creating content of your own every single day. You have expertise in knowledge in helping us be healthier inside and out. So you also are a published author yourself, and I want to hear more, and so does everyone listening and watching.
A long time ago, I asked my audience periodically, I said, do you remember your first love? And I get a little snickers here, there, and yonder, but in reality, my first love was chemistry. And I didn't have a chance to practice it after I got my degree because I got an invitation to Vietnam. But nowadays, I have 6 Saturdays and a Sunday every week, and I have a chance to delve into the human body at the cellular level, and I look for the chemical reactions that are going on. I look for cause and effect. You treat a cause, you can fix a problem. You treat a symptom, you'll always fix it. So I look for those things that relate one to the next. You know, what stops this from happening? What starts this one from, and that type of thing. And I write about that all the time. I've probably written almost every single day for the last 2+ years, maybe. I publish on my website, some social media, and a couple other places. But it's something that I really have a passion for. And if you know how to fix something, fix it and don't just live with it. And that is really where my passions are at. I've written a couple of books on health and wellness in the area of longevity. I've written a couple other books on the science of the human brain, about how it works. But my real true love is writing. I love to do that. I type about 85 words a minute, so it goes straight from here right to the fingertips. And so part of my everyday thing is writing. I really and truly do not miss that, no matter what. I have written 5 books. I published 4 of my own and published probably another 20 some for other people. And I speak at least once a month, maybe twice a month. And usually I'm the guest person on health and wellness, usually with the local Chamber of Commerce or some other group. So that's who I am. That's what I do. I have a number of college degrees and some professional certifications. And I didn't think I really needed a class on how to listen. But as I got to know Dr. Jacalyn more and more, and she's talking about it, and we're kind of sharing information back and forth, all of a sudden it dawned on me, yes, you can always learn something from somebody. It doesn't matter what it is, maybe just incremental a bit. But I was overwhelmed because in the process of starting back, let's hold off everything and just start from basic listening skills, and then kind of move our way forward and forward and forward. And I think most of us, we have a tendency, we're talking to somebody and we pre-formulate in our mind an answer to something that's going on. And the position that Dr. Jacalyn teaches us in her class is that when you're starting to formulate that response to something, or you're getting a counter argument or whatever that is, you are interrupting the free flow of that transmission into your brain. You're not getting all of it. Yeah, it's there, but you're not getting 100% of it. You're not really engaged to get that last little. They may change a little nuance, they may do something, but you're already firmly convinced this is your answer. It may be a good answer, maybe a bad answer, maybe supportive, it may be combative. It doesn't matter. That answer you've formed while you're listening actually detracts from the listening prospect. I've taken so many notes over the years, and when you're taking notes on things, the minute you look down to your hand and what you're writing, again, there's a distraction between the listening mode of what you're hearing and the actual action of doing something else. We call ourselves multitaskers, but in reality, are we? If we could do each at 100%, then that'd be great. But that's not always the way it works. The minute that you go down to make a note, you're shifting your focus to something else. Yeah, you're still listening, but that listening is no longer at 100%. That listening is maybe at 65%, 85%. I don't know. Depends on how long the note is and how involved and how important it is to you. So anyway, Dr. Jacalyn, I hope I kind of did an introduction for you there.
Yes, you did, Red. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I also appreciate your willingness to take the course because, as you mentioned, I shouldn't just say you, but we as people, we might think that we know everything there is to know about a certain subject because we've been doing it so long or because it comes so easily to us. So I appreciate the fact that you were open and you're willing to take the course and you actually learned some things from it. It's interesting. Before this, I had an appointment at a doctor's office, and the doctor asked me several questions, and she never looked at me for any answer to any of them and immediately went on to the next thing. And I thought to myself, this person has no interest whatsoever in what it is I have to say. And I thought to myself, I think I'll find someone else to see because I don't feel good about this experience. And the reason I bring it up is these things happen all the time, but yet we don't stand up. Like, I didn't say, I'm sorry, but you're not listening to me, so I'm not going to be coming back to you. So what happens in business, customer service, whatever it is, people just decide to take their business elsewhere. And in relationships, and I'd love for you to weigh in on this, I feel like having been in a situation in personal relationships where you're not actually heard, you eventually just shut up. You just stop talking because no one's listening. And then your self esteem sort of goes out the window. So, what are your thoughts on either of these, Red?
Well, I think when you take the subject of divorce, I'm an expert on it. I've been married 53 years. Uh, but when you talk to people who are having one of the, we don't have the money, we're spending too much. He's out with somebody else. Why? We can't communicate. And it all boils down to that lowest common denominator. It's not the money. It's that ability to communicate. One of the things that Dr. Jacalyn teaches in her class, and I have adopted, is that when you're talking to somebody, look at them, eyeball to eyeball. You get not only their eye expression, little micro uh, things that happen, but you also get the whole face, the body, and you know that they're engaged. She was just referencing a doctor she's talking about who looked down and was making notes the whole time they were talking. That's disingenuous. Yeah, maybe that's the way it is. Doesn't matter what's causing it, but you're not enacting that transmission back and forth between information and to the brain reception. Now, when you're talking about the let's say you have the ability to listen, but you choose not to. That's a totally different road that you can go down. Yeah, I hear you, but if you just turn around and look at that person in the eye, you don't have that other road to go down anymore. It's blocked. It's detour. You can't use it. So the minute that you engage somebody eyeball to eyeball, yeah, you can look at them and ignore them. People do that, and I'm sure that if somebody is really a big stress in your life, they're your boss or something like that, you may have to pay attention in a faux setting. You're there, but you're not mentally engaged. You're just standing there. But when you're honestly engaged with somebody, you look them in the eye. Now, I have a tendency that my computer is facing a corner, and when I do all my work, the door is behind me. I have no concept of what's going on back there, nor do I care. I'm focused on the computer and what's going on in my brains, my fingers, and whatever else. And my wife will come in and she'll say something, and I'll usually just give me a second, and I actually turn the chair around and give her my full attention now. Didn't used to do that, but it's just one of those things that I learned that if you're going to talk to somebody, and literally for more than, are you ready for dinner? Yes or no? That's a yes or no. And that could be shouted from the bottom of the stairwell. But if somebody comes in and they're there, stop what you're doing or let them know that you have a commitment, you'll be available in 20 seconds or whatever. I don't think anybody minds if you say, I can't interrupt just a second. Give me 10 seconds to finish my thought, and they'll do that. That's easy. Then you turn around and you give them the attention that they need. I think you'll find that a lot of the communication issues go away when that eyeball to eyeball activity goes on, because now you're showing your true self. If you're sitting there listening and you're just uh, inanimate object, you're not moving anything, that's also speaking big loud volume. So engage the person you're with. Yes, you may have something that's really important, and you say, I got to get this out by 3 o'clock. Fine. You're setting a standard. You're letting that person know that you can't be disturbed for the next hour, whatever that period of time is. Or you say, I'm at a point where pretty soon I'll be able to leave this and I'll come down and catch you. And this happens quite often. I'm in the middle of something and I'm 2/3 of the way through and I got a got to feed this thought into this one and kind of work it into the next paragraph so that I know that I have continuity. And my wife will shout something and I don't hear it. And of course, my hearing's going bad anyway. I'm 75, and it's just one of those things that happens with age. You're around jet engines for a good portion of your life. The issue is that we just don't hear as well, but hearing and listening are two different things. You can hear something, yeah, whatever it may happen to be, but you're listening, you're actually taking those emanations from that other person's voice right straight into your brain and processing them into something. And from what I learned in Dr. Jacalyn's class, yeah, I'm probably maintaining 90% or who knows what, some level, but it's not 100%. And the person that you're talking to is important. That's 100% of that relationship, and you don't want to jeopardize that for any reason whatsoever. So don't pre-formulate an answer just based on what's going on. Listen, once they're stopped and they're saying, "Okay, what do you think?" Well, I like the answer. I like the question. What do you think? I'm more of a thinker. If somebody says, how do you feel about that?" I generally don't share feelings. So people who know me, they'll say, "Well, what do you think about that, Red?" But very few people, unless my wife or something, "Well, how are you feeling about that?" There's a difference in the way you ask the question. So somebody says, "Well, how do you feel about that, Red?" I'll say, "Well, I'll tell you what I think about it," because sometimes you don't want to share your feelings with other people. So you got to kind of figure out what's going on. So you don't have to necessarily answer the question directly, but let them know there's qualifications in what you're doing. Dr. Jacalyn, does that help a little bit?
Yes, it definitely does, Red. And first of all, congratulations on 5+ decades of marriage. That is really worth celebrating. So obviously, you and your wife have figured out a way to communicate that works for you. I love the fact that you shared that you, as a result of taking the class, now turn around and look at her. So what has her feedback been about that? Does she say that she noticed it or that your behavior was different in any way?
Well, she just went out to check the mail. I could ask her, but I don't think she has not expressed an opinion one way or the other. But I can tell in just the mere fact that I'm turning around and giving a full attention and listening and not interrupting, that I'm understanding what she wants. Now, sometimes I have to get clarity on something because what I hear, not listen to, what I hear is not necessarily, it's like, go left. Well, is it this left or is it this left? It's not always the same way. If somebody's looking at you, their left is on the other side. And so you have to get the perspective of exactly what communication are they trying to get across? If it's information, are they soliciting, I come home from work and I'm a problem solver like most guys. You ask me what time it is, I'll build you a watch. I mean, that's just the way I work. But sometimes you don't want to be a problem solver. And once you understand that, when somebody says, "Well, how are you?" and you just go off in a different direction, that's not necessarily, they don't need a problem solved. They may not want to have a problem solved. They just want to vent. And you let them vent, let them do whatever okay, fine. What can I do to help? That's a better answer than, well, if you tell Carol this or you tell George this, that's not the answer they want to hear. They just want to get that stress out of their system. And so if you're patiently awaiting that stress, okay, fine, send it to me. I'll take a little bit more away from you. Okay, now they've unloaded, and what can I do to help? Nothing. That's fine. You're not there to solve that problem right now. But if there were a problem to solve, I can say, well, from what you told me, there's maybe two different directions to go into, or you could just ignore it. And generally speaking, those kind of things work in a much better interpersonal relationship, because you're not solving a problem that doesn't need to be solved. Number one, you're stopping the stress momentum from leaving a person's body because you're shutting it down and they don't have anywhere else to vent to. So there's a lot of little dynamics in those interpersonal relationships that actual art of listening enhances that relationship. It may only be incremental now, but over time, all those increments build up. And that's what I think is the real value of your courses, because, okay, let me concentrate. If I don't do anything else, I'm going to look in the eyes of that person I'm talking to. And that's a start. That to me is a major accomplishment, because it's something I wasn't doing. It's something that's so easy to do. And of course, the other one is, I want to solve a problem. Okay, I'm not there to solve a problem. That person doesn't have a problem for me to solve. When that person says, what can I do to fix this? Or now I'm in the problem solving mode. So don't formulate your answer based on what you don't know the answer to be, because that answer is not necessarily needed or wanted at that particular point in time. So,
Bingo. You hit the nail on the head, Red. I love that. And to take that a step further, I feel like when we're not trying to solve for an answer, present an answer, solve a problem, and we're not judging the other person. So, in other words, we take the emotional component out of it, then we can be a much more effective listener. If you think about it, and I was mentioning this to somebody the other day, with all the shows that we have and people from all different parts of the world, different cultures, there are many times on the shows that someone might express something that maybe I don't personally agree with, but no one's going to know, and I'm not going to even think about it because that's not my job. My job is to give people a place to share their stories. And I feel like if we did that as human beings, on a more regular basis, instead of thinking, well, the way I feel is the only way it is, and I can't deal with you because you feel something different, and people are constantly butting heads, and then the likelihood of us resolving it is probably not going to happen. And I think it's great to have debates. I'm all for hearing other people's points of view, but you really have to be open to listening and not trying to win.
you see this a lot at a dinner table, particularly at Thanksgiving or Christmas, a
Mm-hmm.
holiday. Okay, we don't want Uncle Ned talking about politics. We don't want, Aunt Susie over here talking about, her 3 divorces, whatever it may happen to be. There's some topics that we just don't want to talk about. And nobody actually says it, but everybody understands it. And that sort of happens in just normal relationships. We don't talk about something because it might offend somebody. But then again, if you're offending somebody, it's because, as you say, the emotional component of that relationship is starting to fray a little bit, to come to the surface, to bubble over. But if you're not countering an argument every time somebody says something, you're allowing that emotion to kind of settle back down again, because that person has a chance to say something. They have value. Now, you may not agree with their value. That's fine. We all have our politics are different, or what college football team we like, or professional baseball. It doesn't matter what it is. That's the way we are. That's the way we're connected. And if my team is losing to your team and you're sitting there yucking it up, well, that's part of the interrelationship between a winning and a losing team. But that should go away. That shouldn't be held for the next 15 years, because that person is a whatever fan of that particular sport or whatever. So it's one of those things. If you understand the dynamic of the listening process, and this is something you do so very well with your little videos of the people acting out a scenario. You see it, but we're watching it as if we're on TV. There's the activity going on. What did you see? What did you hear? What did those kinds of things. And well, if that person had just stopped a little bit, or that person, you give the scenarios where we now have the ability to grasp the concept you're trying to get across to us right now, because we're seeing it live. It's being reinforced before our eyes, our ears, everything is there. And then we talk about it. Well, Red, why did you pick B as your answer? Well, this is what it is. Well, Sally, why'd you pick C? So we have a chance to explain why, because sometimes our perception is slightly modified based on our experiences in life. And my perception from being a military officer of 30 years, married for 53 years, is different than somebody who's never been in the military, somebody who's been divorced 3 times. I mean, there's lots of different interpersonal histories that we are formulating every single, our brains are just going constantly. So that's part of what we have to understand with the other person. Allow them the free opportunity to tell you. You may not agree. You can say, I guess we're just going to agree to disagree, because that's not the way I feel about it. It's not the way I think it should be. But that's it. You just low key it and let it go.
Wonderful gem that you just dropped there. And in listening to you speak, there's so many things that you just brought up that I'd love to have you come back and touch on. So the first is holiday meals. Holiday meals are a big time when there are disputes, because maybe somebody has too much to drink, or maybe the sports team, or maybe you haven't seen somebody in a while, and all of a sudden somebody says something and it becomes heated. People are leaving the room. I mean, it happens. So I'd love to have you come back and work with me on how we can help people with that. And the second thing is that you touched on, many times people will communicate in a rambling, roundabout way for whatever the topic is that they're trying to address. And so as listeners, maybe we're holding a space for them, but they're not getting to the point. So it's also important to learn how to speak and be heard. So we have a course coming out that's actually available now for people to learn how to speak and be heard, and also learn how to listen. So one thing I want to close out with, because you and I were discussing this yesterday, in one of the other sessions for the Listening Mentor, I think it was part 3 with music, incorporating breath and your voice, someone attended and was really emphatic about when you're listening, if you're shaking your head, then you're not actually listening. So you and I had a conversation about that yesterday. And do you want to share what your thoughts are about that? If I'm listening to you and I'm nodding my head, do you feel like you're listened to, or do you feel like I'm now distracted because I'm nodding?
Okay, let's leave the 2 screens up right now, because as you're talking, you just gave me a little head nod because you're acknowledging what I'm saying. And because of the smile and the brightness of the face, you're pretty much in agreement, because the body language is showing the agreement with the body, the little micro features that are going on, and the little head nod, and sometimes just the eyes flickering too. So you have, to me, a little head nod when we're conversing with somebody gives them that feedback. I hear you. I understand what you're saying. That's different than when somebody says, yeah, I can't wait to tell you what my little part is. That's a different head nod, and there's probably a little bit of difference between just a simple little head nod and that, yeah, okay. So where do we draw the line? I think just on a head nod or two is probably fine. I think that you're communicating back to the other person. Yeah, I hear you. I understand what you're saying. You're not saying I disagree with you. I think when you're doing like this, it's either somebody really agreeing with you or really disagreeing with you. And so the head nod is, I think, still open for debate a little bit. I think it depends on a single nod. I think that's apropos. That fits into the equation of the communication back and forth. But if you're going to go head nodding and you're drifting off to the side, yeah, you're still communicating, you're hearing it, but you're no longer that visual lock on to the other person. So there's little nuances in that. But I think a simple head nod in the commentary that's going on from the other person gives them some assurance. Now, as you talk about rambling, we see this a lot sometimes on TV shows where a lawyer is going to ask a question, or you see it on a lot of press releases. They go on and on and on for 15 minutes asking a question. And it says, okay, could you summarize that into one sentence? I'll usually do something like that. I lost you right after about the first part of that. I couldn't figure out where you're going. Can you restate that much more simply? Or can you, I do this a lot, particularly with my wife and with some other of my friends. Okay, fine. I heard you, but could you repeat that a different way? Because sometimes what I'm hearing, I sort of know which direction I want to go, but I need just a little bit more clarity. So if somebody has to explain something, not using the same words, but the same concept with different words, now I get a bigger picture of what it is. So they know if I don't understand something, maybe I didn't hear, maybe my actual hearing is not, ask me that question a different way. And that way I'm getting a full interpretation of what they are communicating so that I can formulate a better answer.
Yes, and it sounds like then you're getting a different perspective from the perspective you had initially.
Well, I'm not preforming an answer based on something I don't know the full question.
Yes.
So as part of that, you're deciding what you want to say before the other person's done, and that's not the most helpful way of doing things. So if I get them to restate the question a different way, it's either the same thing and I know what I want to say, or, okay, fine, I didn't hear that part. Okay, give me a second and I'll give you an answer. Because that, to me, tells that person you're really interested in answering that question as accurately as you can. Would you agree?
I definitely, yes, I definitely agree. And I think for me, one of the key learnings, because, I'm always open to learning, getting more information, is that by practicing elevated listening and ultimately effective listening, I feel more calm. I don't know why, but I just feel like all the pressure of having to jump in or having to figure something out or what's supposed to be is going to be said next. So, if, for example, when I interview people, I don't use a script. And if I had a script, it would be very stressful because I'd have to find out, well, wait a minute, this person's not on point with that. And then how, and so I just listen and I feel very calm because I don't have to think about what's next because I'm just following the conversation. And I feel that when someone is not an elevated listener and I have interaction with them, sometimes it can be nerve-wracking because they're not getting to the point. And it gets, and I'm just being honest, at times it's boring.
Well, you mentioned something very, very important. That was the word stress. If you're pre-formulating what your response is going to be and you don't have a chance to get it out because that person keeps rambling and rambling, or now you have another response to something else and now another response, am I going to forget the order I want to respond? You're building stress, and you're taking in stress you don't need. Why would you do that? You don't need it. It's just going to, and you said, I feel so much calmer when I'm listening at a different level and paying real close attention to what that person is saying without a preconception of where I want to go after that. So that, to me, from a physiological perspective, the brain is not formulating an answer right now. We may end up formulating an answer down the road, depending on how the exchange goes back and forth. But you're not allowing that stress to accumulate in the body, even temporarily, because stress is going to eventually just pile up anyway. So I can totally understand why I feel much calmer, because you're de-stressing yourself right in the middle of not formulating a response to something that may not even be the response, because by the time they get finished, you're on a different planet because you're no longer on Earth. They're rambling, whatever it is. You're asking the next question that a good interviewer asks because that's where they left you. They don't need your interpretation of something or your counter argument or your reinforcement. They want to know from a professional interviewer's perspective, what is the next thing? What is the next thing? And that's what you do so very well.
Thank you. That's very nice. I appreciate that. Well, I'd love to have you come back, Red, and help me with the holiday traditions, how we can get people to listen and how we can get people to share what it is they want to share at that dinner table or whatever that holiday function is, so that there's a lot of peace and happiness as opposed to people banging heads and storming off. And I'm not going to see you again until next year.
Well, as always, you just have to take a deep breath, hold it for 30 minutes, and you have no problem at all.
Yes. If only that was possible. So, Red, I'm going to spotlight you, and I'd love for you to share how people can reach out to you and who should reach out to you.
I'm a public speaker, primarily in the area of health and wellness. My information is down below. My website's there. I publish a blog, about 1,500 blogs on my website. I got almost 1,000 articles, original content on LinkedIn. I have a Facebook page on, red.olaughlin on my Facebook. If you want to get in touch with me, the absolutely easiest way is by email. I didn't put my phone number on there, but I'd say just give me a call. But a lot of people love to text. That's probably the worst way to reach me, is by texting, because I don't check that often. It's in my pocket. I'm not a slave to that phone and whatever else is there. But if it rings, I'll hear it and answer it. But in reality, if there's something I can do to help you with writing a book, giving you some thoughts, helping you publish a book, I'll answer the questions. That doesn't matter to me whether you hire me or not. I will give you the answers to the questions. So if you have something involved in the book writing, the book publishing world, more than happy to help give you whatever guidance I can give you. But red.olaughlin@gmail.com is the absolute easiest way to reach me. And if you want to find out the kinds of things that I write about, red.olaughlin.com is my website. Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn.
Thank you, Red. And as I've shared before, I work with Red. We meet every week, I think. How long has it been now, Red?
Well, going on close to a year. I guess another
Close
month will
to
be
a
about a
year.
year.
I know, a celebration, our year anniversary. And now Red and I are working on books 2 and 3. So I highly recommend that you reach out to him. I know there's been a couple of new connections, which I think are great. And I hope that keeps growing and growing and growing.
I look forward to it, Dr. Jacalyn. I'm humbled to always be on your program, so thank you so very much for inviting me.
Thank you. And please do sign up to talk about the holidays.
I shall do my best. Whatever is needed, we'll make it happen.
All right. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye now.
Bye. That was Red O'Laughlin, elevated listener, and he's so much more. Please do reach out to him. He is a wonderful person. He's very sincere, and he really cares about people, and he really wants to help you make a difference and get your first book out there. So don't hesitate. We have one more show coming up today. It's all about dating with my co-host, Lori Mendelson, and our guest, Anita Boyd. I hope that you will join us for that. I think it's in about half an hour. So look forward to seeing everyone then. Also, before I go, if you would like to learn more about our seminars, we have 4 seminars under the power of listening. The first 2 are the foundational courses, which really enable you to watch videos, video role plays of behavior. And many times people are in the audience shaking their heads saying, oh, that was just what happened at my house last night, or that's what happened in the office. So you get to identify behavior patterns that are ineffective, that hopefully you'll be able to have resonate with you and your own behavior. And you also get tips and skills so that you can be an effective listener. Courses 3 and 4 are with my friends, the award-winning singer-songwriter Madeline Chan, and we really focus on listening as well as breathing and using your voice. And in these courses, we have people that have emotional breakthroughs when they actually hear themselves speak. It's very powerful. So once again, please do go over to Eventbrite. I will look for my banner, and all you have to do is put in the search engine, The Power of Listening, and you can sign up right there. Thank you again. Here we go. You can also email me, Jacalyn at drjacalyn.com. I am a certified coach. I can help you in your relationships. If you're having troubles listening or you're not being heard at home or at the office, I'm happy to offer my coaching services to you. So in addition to the power of listening, which the ticker is going across the bottom, you can also contact me for coaching. That's all for right now. Thank you again for being here. I look forward to seeing you very shortly for the dating show. It's all about dating. Bye for now.